And now, with today's response to President Obama's weekly address, editor of the North Star National, Dan Calabrese.
Thank you. This morning, President Obama said some appropriate words about the nation's reaction to the Fort Hood shootings and about how the nation must respond in the aftermath. And while it was certainly appropriate for him not to get into details of investigations and things of that nature, I think there are some things that need to be said about how the president framed the questions we're looking into in the aftermath of the shooting. Mainly, the president acted as if he has no idea why officials failed to connect the dots or failed to act on the knowledge they had about the radicalism of the shooter, Hassan. Specifically, I think that we need to remember the presentation that he made not long ago, in which he went on at length about how infidels deserve to be put to death and all this sort of thing. And we know from officials who were talked to, who witnessed that presentation, that they A, let it go on, and B, expressed their desire to not have anything to do with putting a stop to it, because they knew very well that if they stopped him, they would be accused of being anti-Muslim, they would be accused of being racist, and all that sort of thing. Here's where I think that the president, who talked about the need for accountability, maybe needs to accept a little accountability of his own, because the hypersensitivity to any sense whatsoever that one is in some way being negative toward Muslims or negative toward Islam or something of that nature has been encouraged by him and people who think like him. The fact of the matter is, the reason that this hypersensitivity exists within the military is because of thinking that President Obama encouraged to fare thee well during his run-up to the presidency, during his time in the Senate. Now that he's commander-in-chief, which he identifies as the role that he considers more weighty than anything else he has to do, he needs to start taking seriously the fact that the nation faces serious threats from serious enemies. President Obama described what happened at Fort Hood as unthinkable insofar as you wouldn't expect our armed forces to face such an assault right there on their own base, right here on American soil. Well, apparently it's not unthinkable. And one of the reasons it's not unthinkable is because we allow these things to go on. We allow an individual like Hassan to continue to serve in the military, even though we know he has these radical points of view, even though we find out that he's making contact with radical clerics abroad. And we do nothing because the officials who know about it are more concerned about being accused of insensitivity and racism and whatever else it is than they are concerned about preventing an attack like what we saw at Fort Hood. I am sure the investigation will be thorough. I am sure that they will pursue all the facts and they'll get everything they can, and I'm sure they'll hold someone accountable. But the people who really need to be held accountable are the people who tried to make it appear that it was a greater offense to be insensitive toward certain people than it was to be lax in taking seriously and rooting out threats to American national security. That is thinking that President Obama and those of his ilk encouraged, and I think that it's worth asking when he is going to accept accountability for his role in that destructive thinking. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan Calabrese, editor of the North Star National, and this has been today's response to President Obama's weekly address.